Good morning. I'm going to be doing a series of videos focusing on counterclaiming a call for an uprising. The person that does these videos is a very hateful, spiteful person. He has no problems with making claims that everything that's wrong with the world is satanic. He loves to use the term satanic ritual abuse. Now, ritual abuse is when a religious structure has certain things that they do repeatedly, thus making it a ritual, that compromises and violates a person's rights or safety. An example of ritual abuse would be such as the Amish and the Mormons, how they ritually marry off children at 14 years old, and in many cases younger, to way older people. That is a form of sexual abuse, and that is Christian ritual abuse. So I'm going to be doing a few videos talking about that, and I'm going to give you my motivation why right here.
And I want to make it clear to everybody listening, there's tons of channels that have great content. My goal with this channel is to go after Satanism, Satanists, the occult, witches, cast them out. I want to reverse what's happened here. I want to run them back into the woods. I want to run them back up the trees. I don't want to see them around my family. I don't want to see them around your family. I don't want to see them walking down the streets. They belong in the woods. They belong caged in the woods. These people are evil.
Okay, Brazilians funneled as slaves by U.S. church, ex-members say. This was published by the Associated Press, July 24th, 2017. Out of Spindale, North Carolina. When Andre Olivier, sorry if I butchered the name, answered the call to leave his Word of Faith Fellowship congregation in Brazil to move to another church in North Carolina at the age of 18, his passport and money were confiscated by church leaders for safekeeping, he said he was told. Trapped in a foreign land, he said he was forced to work 15 hours a day and usually for no pay. First cleaning warehouses for the evangelical church and later working at businesses owned by the sect's senior ministers. Another violation of the rules risks the wrath of church leaders, he said, ranging from beatings to shaming from the pulpit, which are ways that cults control its members. An Associated Press investigation has found that Word of Faith Fellowship used its two church branches in Brazil to siphon a steady flow of young laborers who came on tourist and student visas on its 35-acre compound in rural Spindale. The Brazilians often spoke little English when they arrived, and many had their passports seized. They kept us as slaves, Oliveira told the AP. How can you do that to people? Claim you love them and then beat them in the name of God. Christian ritual abuse. Under the U.S. law, visitors on tourist visas are prohibited from performing work or which normally would be compensated. Those on student visas are allowed some work under circumstances that were not met at Word of Faith Fellowship, the AP found. In 2014, three former congregants told an assistant U.S. attorney that the Brazilians were being forced to work without pay, according to a recording of the meeting obtained by the AP. Jill Rose, now the U.S. Attorney in Charlotte, promised she would take a fresh look at it, according to the recording, but the former member said she never responded when they repeatedly tried to contact her in the months after the meeting. Rose declined to comment to AP, citing an ongoing investigation. Oliveira, who fled the church when he is one of 16 former members who told the AP they were made to work while being subject to physical and verbal assaults. Again, this makes that Christian ritual abuse, because it was probably done in the name of God. Former conjugate J. Plummer, an American, supervised remodeling projects of a church's leader business and confirmed the Brazilians' assertions that the U.S. workers who worked alongside them were paid while they were not. The revelations of forced labor are not the latest in an ongoing AP investigation exposing decades of abuse at Word of Faith Fellowship, based on exclusive interviews with 43 former members, documents, and secretly made recordings. The AP reported in February that congregants were regularly punched and choked in an effort to purify sinners by beating out devils. This again is another form of Christian ritual abuse. The church has rarely been sanctioned since it was founded in 1979 by Jane Whaley, a former math teacher, and her husband, Sam. Another previous AP report outlined how congregants were ordered by church leaders to lie to authorities investigating reports of abuse. Okay, this is control and lying. This goes out right up against the Bible. The AP made repeated attempts to obtain comments for the story from church leaders in both countries, but they did not respond. Under Jane Whaley's leadership, the church grew from a handful of followers to about 750 congregants in North Carolina and nearly 2,000 congregants in its churches in Brazil and Ghana, and affiliations Sweden, Scotland, and other countries. Whaley and her attendants travel several times a year to the Brazilian branches in the southeastern cities of São Joaquim de Bacas and Franco de Rocha. She tells the Brazilian members of her flock and that they can improve their lives and relationships with God with pilgrimages to Spindale, according to several of those interviewed. Some said they were enticed with the chance to attend college, learn English, to see a bit of the U.S. Others said they felt they had no choice but to travel to North Carolina. Coercion, form of Christian ritual abuse. Perhaps to circumvent the rules against employment, church leaders sometimes refer to the forced labor projects as volunteer work, according to Brazilians interviewed in both countries. Some females worked as babysitters and in the church's K-12 school, and many males worked in construction, the former member said. The work included ripping out walls and installing drywall in apartments owned and rented by a senior church minister, they said. It was slave labor, said Rebecca Melo, 29, who grew up in the church in Brazil and visited the U.S. about 10 times. Whaley's brand of love also played a key role in enticing Brazilian males to Spindale and keeping them there once their visas expired, according to former members of the church. 10 of those interviews spoke of male Brazilians obtaining green cards for permanent residency and being able to legally work by being married off to female American congregants. It is illegal to enter a sham marriage for the purpose of avoiding U.S. immigration laws. Here is another example of a church just ignoring U.S. law. I can count at least 5 to 6 Brazilian guys that moved here to marry an American girl, Melo said. They would never, ever consider letting you date somebody outside of the church. This is control. They want to control your environment and who you talk to. These are signs of a cult, and then is Christian ritual abuse.